We've all probably heard of Stoicism, associated with an unwavering level of calm in the face of adversity. But what are the core beliefs of Stoics, and why has this mantra or this philosophy been adapted by elite athletes, business professionals, and some of the most successful people to walk the planet? How can it benefit your life and your bodybuilding? Well, today we're going to talk about that. So to start off, let's talk about the basics of Stoicism. At its core, Stoicism is about resilience, happiness, and values, trying to make us a better person all round. Basically, Stoics believe that somebody who's achieved like a moral or intellectual elite level, perfection, they're not affected by stuff like fear, envy, or misfortune. In their words, you are immune to misfortune, which is a lovely concept, isn't it? I wish life was that simple. As you can probably tell, Stoics aren't really famed for their emotional availability, and they do tend to look at philosophy more as sort of a toolbox in order to decide sort of what's beneficial to your life and what isn't. There's a large focus on sort of personal accountability within Stoicism, and it is quite a brutal look at situations. When something goes wrong, you really have to look internally at what you could do to change that or to do better. It is very self-reflective, and hence why it's never really just been constricted to academia. It's not just a philosophical classroom kind of topic, like maybe the trolley problem, for example. It is very much a mantra for elite professionals, and it's been adopted very much by the athletic world. So just to name a few people who have referenced or studied Stoicism, we've got George Washington, Immanuel Kant, Thomas Jefferson, even the great Luke Sandoe was a student of Stoicism and subscribed to the Daily Stoic. I do remember that from Bodybuilding and Bollocks, and that's actually what sparked my interest in the whole concept, because the Stoic approach that he would talk about and reference mirrored a lot of my approaches to life and situations. So it got me thinking, is there actually a full structure and discipline to this? Is this actually a thing? And it turns out, yes, it is. So what are the Stoics' core values? What is that thing? One of the core values, first of all, is courage. Stoics see hardship and difficult situations as tests, and they feel like your actions put out to the world your response to that and who you are as a person. They represent you, your values, and your identity. Those actions, your response needs to display your values, and you should consider your actions as defining factors in who you are. This mindset's a brilliant part of Stoicism. It could help a lot of people within challenging situations, because bodybuilders often face some of the hardest physical and mental struggles. The courage to determine that your actions are a direct reflection of your value as a person and what you stand for. That can be a very powerful mantra if you're deep into contest prep, because at the end of the day, that is a very courageous act. You are suffering for the sake of your values and what you believe in. Those challenges that we face day to day, they're just tests of our courage and discipline, and whether we're willing to fight for what we believe in, which will become a pretty recurring thread throughout Stoicism. The point number 2 is called Temperance. Temperance is all about doing the right thing in the right amount at the right time in the right way. It's basically like, moderation. This is where the phrase, "we are what we do," and the quote, "excellence is not an act but a habit," come from. I believe both of them were from Aristotle. This once again reflects the importance of our actions, and it relates back to the fact that, Stoicism and greatness is not one single act, it is a way of life. And those small, tiny actions, which may seem as insignificant, actually build up to form the larger picture. Those small actions at the right time in the right way can yield massive results. Enormous change is possible with just small corrections and strong processes. This is exactly what bodybuilders believe in at the end of the day, right? We all believe that we're all capable of greatness, and it's just those small daily actions towards our goal day to day which build a great physique or a great man. Or woman, of course. It's a culmination of years worth of efforts. It's not just one 12-week prep. You can see Nick Walker for evidence of this. His day-to-day regimented, strict diet, his routine, he nails every single metric. And that kind of thing adds up to the stellar year that he's had. His first real professional season, and he's cleaned up shop and taken the Arnold Classic by storm. This shows you why in bodybuilding, that small, insignificant action may lead to some great massive results if done in the right way. Moving on, and the third point is justice. Now, throughout history, many Stoics have fought for justice at great personal expense, fighting for what they believe in or the people they believe in. Doing the right thing seems to be a common thread throughout Stoicism as sort of the number one priority. It's also about having the courage to stand up for your values. You've got to have the bravery to do the right thing in the right amount and stand up for justice. What do you believe in? What change do you want to make in the world? What world do you want to see be created in the future? These are all questions a Stoic has to ask themselves. You have to know what you're fighting for before you're truly willing to fight. Because a Stoic fights for what they believe in, and they see the world clearly for both what it is, the truth of it, but also what it could be with the right work and input. And going back to Temperance, they very much believe that with small actions, you can create that world. And the fourth and final point is wisdom. This is truly the thing that underpins all of these disciplines. What situations call for courage, temperance, and stand up for what you believe in? Well, wisdom is the experience and the knowledge in order to understand that and to be able to implement the Stoic way of life into your day-to-day. It's key that we study, we keep our mind open, and we're not just looking for any information, we're looking for good information. So, great teachings, lots of studying, seeking out the right coaches, the right people to surround ourselves with who can help advance our knowledge is going to be paramount. And most of all, this quote resonated with me. You can't learn something which you believe you already know. And this translates to bodybuilding just an incredible amount. The one thing that I'm a major advocate for, which most people ignore when it comes to bodybuilding, is the studying, the research, and the theory side of the sport. You can't just turn up, lift weights, and expect to transform your physique. There are so many different mechanisms here that are going on, things that you're manipulating, and you're trying to optimize the performance of your body. And to do that, you have to truly understand it. I believe that studying early on in my bodybuilding career transformed my progress, and continuing to do that, every time that I've had a period of focus on advancing my knowledge, is a time where my results have exponentially increased. You have to keep your mind open and not presume to already have the answers. I believe that many people go into this blindly and they spin their wheels for a long period of time because they don't put the investment in there to be able to control their own destiny, to be able to have the basis of knowledge in order to know what to do when to achieve what they're looking to achieve, and that can be disheartening. You're 2 years down the line, you've made no progress, you've been ticking all the boxes that you were told when you first started, but maybe those boxes weren't right. Maybe they weren't the full picture. Maybe you need to advance your knowledge of what's required of you. This will all allow you to act in the right way at the right time. So we're moving on, those are the core basic foundation principles of Stoicism. There are some practices that Stoics take, and these are things that they exercise throughout their daily life in order to truly practice Stoicism. First of which is focusing on your own actions and what you can control versus what you can't. This is possibly one of the most famed Stoic habits and traits, right? Very much detached from the outside world. As we mentioned earlier, the intellectual sage, which is what they call somebody who achieved that intellectual or moral perfection, is unaffected by misfortune, and this speaks to it. This is the practice in order to learn that. Stoics are able to focus intently on what they can control, what is within their power, and this is an incredibly empowering thing to do because many of us receive situations and we focus on the things outside of our control. In bodybuilding, it's often genetics or outside factors or how busy our life is, so we can't optimize our output. And yet, a Stoic would flip that and say, well, okay, but what is the opportunity here to build a unique plan around my personal lifestyle? How can I best optimize what is within my control? So I've got this schedule. Where can I fit the training in? How can I make this work so it's less disruptive for my life? Okay, my genetics don't suit me in this way. How do they play in my favor? Because you're not just going to be completely genetically shat on. That's going to be a very limited amount of people who have the ultimate bag of misfortune genetically, right? And for those people, maybe, yes, bodybuilding might not be your sport, but most people will have unique traits, positive and negative. Just remember that time spent fighting the things that you can't control is time that you could be spending on the things you can control, making a real difference. Your flight's delayed because of the weather, right? It's shouting at somebody about it isn't going to fix it. You're stuck in traffic because somebody's had a horrific accident up the road. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. You have to accept those things, not let them get to you, and understand them for what they are. Uncontrollable factors, unknown unknowns, and you need to become content with that. You need to know that as long as you personally have done everything within your control for success, that is the most important factor. I do not apologize for situations outside of my control in work, in bodybuilding. Sometimes life just happens. It's all about how we react and what we focus on to change to make sure, ideally, it doesn't happen again. This shifts the focus away from excuses and towards solutions. Now, I'm not going to cover every single practice of a Stoic, but another one is your perception. Stoics practice something called turning a challenge on its head, or turning a situation upside down. What this basically means is that you're taking a challenge that's happened to you and you're forcing yourself to think of it in a positive light. Think about where the opportunity may lie in this challenge. Now, many of us do this across business. We often do, when hardship comes up, we figure out how to make it play to our advantage. You should also do this within bodybuilding. Stoics believe there's no bad or good in anything in the world. It's all about our perception of that, how we perceive it. Let's take an example. You get bad blood work back, right? You think, okay, my health's in jeopardy. Okay, that means that I have a bad genetic response. I'm not resilient enough to deal with this bodybuilding enhanced lifestyle. Okay, I'm going to come off completely forever and I'm done with it. That's it. So you've got that mindset, which may lead somebody to quit the sport or pull back. Or you've got the opportunity of, okay, my blood work's come back negative. This is good. This is a red flag. I now know that there's something here that needs to be addressed. How can I then come at this situation? What is in my control to fix this? How can I take this to my advantage? Well, clearly my body needs a break. I tell you what, I know I need to grow anyway. Let's take some time off. Let's detox the body and prepare it properly for a full off season. Clearly it's in a toxic place. That's your opportunity to detox and come back fresh and build the most amount of mass possible. Lots of people tend to jump to conclusions when things go wrong. They perceive things that happen in the world as disastrous and they often have very visceral negative reactions to situations. This is all about becoming less reactionary. It's taking the time to step back, think and process the situation as much as it is trying to find the positive and the opportunity. This is a multifold benefit, and I suggest anybody to do it because honestly, I'm a salesman. I look for the opportunity wherever I can find it. Stoicism has honestly transformed my life, and this wasn't intentional. I didn't know about the practices of Stoicism, the values, all of this information before I sat down to properly research it for this video. But it turns out I've been practicing Stoicism for a good few years now, mainly because I faced some severe adversity. You may, if you follow the channel for a while, had the hints at my financial past, my debt, my gambling addictions, my lifestyle. And to be honest, Stoicism was my solution to that. I had to deeply reflect on what I was doing wrong and stop blaming the world and the situation and my job and not being paid enough for the travel, and realise that my actions were what were causing my problems and what was in my control to fix that. And I took some radical steps to do it. Honestly, it's brought accountability to myself to the forefront of my mind, and it's really, really made me a better person. Every challenge that I've faced, I've seen as an opportunity to grow as a person, mature, and take learnings into the next time I approach it. I'm doing that on my prep now. We know what went wrong, and we're here to fix it. And this is the mindset that you should have, a positive mindset of moving forward. It can help a lot of people who seem to dwell on the past quite a lot. The emphasis on study and advancing your knowledge deeply resonates with me too, and I believe that all of this combined can really provide you with an amazing framework for bodybuilding and for life. It reminds you to be brave and stand up for your values, which is something which we've often lost in the society that we live in. This doesn't mean also, because of Stoicism's concept of keeping your mind open, that you're adamant that your values and your perception of the world is correct. You're meant to be able to stop, look back, consider your perception of the situation, consider your knowledge, and seek out great teachings which may be able to improve that knowledge, even if it disproves what you feel you currently believe. Because, as they say, you can't learn something you believe you already know. If you're interested in more of this kind of content, I do want to hear about it, because mindset, mentality, this philosophical approach to the world and the people and the human side of bodybuilding is something which is often neglected, but is the main driving force behind us all. There's a reason why we do what we do, and we love what we do. There's also a reason some are successful and some aren't. So I want to shed a light on that and bring you more content which should be able to help you. So let me know in the comments if you want to see more like this. Like and subscribe. It really, really does help, honestly, guys. And I'll see you in the next one.